Well, hopefully we'll learn all the ins and outs of ABLE accounts, specifically Florida's ABLE program, who it's for, why we're here, what we're doing, and how this could be a really great financial tool for you, your family, and your loved one. I brought a backpack with goodies, so if you ask a question, you get a backpack. If you don't ask a question, you get a backpack. Everybody's getting a backpack. So make sure you get a backpack because I don't want to take them back down. All right. I think I have enough for everybody. If not, you can find it out. All right. So my name is John Fitch. I'm the director of ABLE's program called ABLE United. And the first thing we have to start off is, what is ABLE, right? You know, we say this word. And if you've been in the disability community for any length of time, there's an acronym, right? It's got to have an acronym. You can't have a word and then not mean something. So ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And this process started actually 15 years ago when family members just like you all said, why isn't there a way for me to start saving for the future of my child just because they have some type of diagnosis or a special need? And so through hard advocacy and efforts, and after 10 years of pushing it, it finally passed in 2014 called the ABLE Act. And what it did was it actually created a new tax revenue code, 529A, similar to 529. Anybody heard of 529 accounts? College savings accounts? So they're like, hey, you know, they're kind of the same thing, so we'll just tack it and put an A on the end, even though that's where the similarities are different. You know. But the Internal Revenue, so what it really did is create these tax advantage savings and investment accounts. And we're going to dig into all what that means, all the details, the nitty gritty. Here in the state of Florida, each state had to pass their own set of rules and legislation to allow their state to set up this program, who was going to run the program. Primarily, most states chose to go with whoever was running their college savings program. Florida did the same thing. And really, the goal of these accounts is to help individuals to save after-tax dollars for a variety of expenditures to improve or maintain that beneficiary, the person with the disabilities, health, independence, or quality of life. So as we go through this, think of the other financial products you might be familiar with or heard of: a bank account, checking savings account, a special needs trust, kind of, and a Roth IRA. So kind of all these different tools rolled into a really unique product that can only be found by a state that's actually offering these accounts. So it's not something you're going to get at a bank. Here in the state of Florida, we were set up under the Florida Prepaid College Board. Florida Prepaid, anybody? College savings, some of you? Right? They've been around for 30 years, helped over 1 million families save for higher education expenses. They were chosen as the agency, because we are a part of the state, to run Florida's ABLE program. And so we had to pass some legislation. We're found in, for your attorneys in the room, you know, Florida Statute 1009.986 through 987 or 988 has all of our statute. But we launched July 1 of 2016, so we're coming up on our 6-year anniversary. A little bit of my background: I had the pleasure before coming on in April of 2016 to help launch this program. I actually worked 10 years with the ARC of Florida, which is a statewide advocacy organization that really helps individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities on a statewide basis. They had local chapters that actually did direct services, and we were one of the lead agencies pushing the state legislation. So very blessed to have helped push it, get it passed, and then come onto the state and actually kind of run it. And so high level, the benefits of an ABLE account, so we're going to dive into each 3 of these categories. Who owns the account? The individual with the disability owns the account, so what does that mean? Don't worry, parents, you can open it on their behalf. Financial flexibility, the big idea of the advantage of being able to save and put money aside without impacting public benefits like Medicaid and SSI. And also tax benefits, tax-free growth, being able to have these funds grow, maybe not in today's market, but you know, previous to January. You know, tax-free earnings that can be used for a variety of expenditures. And we'll talk about all these types of unique benefits and how it relates with public benefits. I do this slide in here is kind of a joke because we hear this all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I got an Able Trust account. I'm like, well, let's not get confused because there is an organization called the Able Trust. They're here. They're very much employment focused. We are a savings focused program. We're friends. We're not the same organization at all. Even though their office is about 1.5 miles down the road, and we're both in Tallahassee, but they're actually a direct support organization of vocational rehabilitation, and we're actually a direct support organization of Florida Prepaid. So, but yeah, they're a wonderful state agency that really do focus. So we are not a trust account. We are just an able account. So make that distinction. And this is why I love what I do, right? These are the people I've served. Here on the top left is Jen Secor and her son Sean. Jen was at our booth earlier, but she was that parent at the round table saying, we need to do something to start saving for our families. And so it's through her hard work. When Sean was 3, he just turned 19. I saw a picture of him, and like, he's a man now. It's so weird. But you know, we have her, and she's saving for whatever expenses come up. You have Alicia down here whose mom is starting to age a little bit, needs help, wants to get a wheelchair accessible van. So putting funds aside to save for that. And then you have Elliot up here with his mom, Sandy, who's like, he doesn't need assistance from government yet, but has a DJ side business, can use funds to help from his able account to help pay some of those costs, and just using it in a variety of ways to really make himself as independent as possible. So that's kind of the history of able accounts. Any questions on history? Why this account, why this program exists in the first place? All right. Don't be shy. You're going to get a backpack regardless. Okay. So who's eligible to open an account, right? This sounds really great. How do I get it? There's really 3 requirements. One is true for all ABLE programs. Remember, we're the state of Florida's ABLE program. But I do want to make a note right at the beginning. An individual can only have one ABLE account in their name. So unlike other financial products where you might have multiple checking or savings accounts, a beneficiary can only have one ABLE account nationwide. So the eligibility requirements. 1, you have to be a Florida resident at the time you apply. After that, you move out of the state, you can take it with you. It's an online account. Yeah, see? Yeah, she doesn't like that. The next 2 are true federal requirements that all programs have to agree to. 1, you have to have a disability that was diagnosed prior to age 26. Doesn't matter your age now. We have people in the program in their late 80s. We have newborns in the program. As long as that diagnosis of a marked and severe functional limitation, it's a severe type of disability, occurred prior to age 26, you qualify. With that, you don't have to provide any paperwork to prove to us that you were diagnosed. The only time that will come into play is if you were audited and that beneficiary was audited and say, okay, you have an ABLE account, you're self-certifying, you meet this requirement, where is that diagnosis? So if the IRS comes looking, you would have to prove that. That last requirement, the severity of the disability, so not only is there a diagnosis age, a severity. If you're on SSI or the beneficiary is on or receiving supplemental security income or Social Security disability, that's that earned benefit, either their work history or some of you parents might be retired and their child's not getting that, that would automatically qualify. If they're not, you're doing this bottom option called self-certifying. Basically, you're saying, hey, I attest I have a diagnosis. It meets these physical and mental impairment requirements that the Social Security has, but regardless of age, and expected to last 12 months. So the next question we get is, does my disability qualify, right? That's what we get next. Sir?
So my child who's under 18
Yes.
doesn't qualify for SSDI or SSI because of our income.
Yep.
Does that mean he doesn't qualify for an ABLE account?
No, so in that situation, they don't have SSI or SSDI, they would self-certify that they have a severe marked functional limitation.
Thank you.
And the IRS was kind to say, okay, let's give these individuals some broad categories of the types of disabilities that would qualify. So you might see on here in the first one, developmental disorder, so autistic spectrum disorder, Asperger's, developmental and learning disabilities, different types of intellectual disabilities. But it's much broader than just that. You have psychiatric types of diagnoses like schizophrenia or PTSD, nervous disorders, blindness, deafness, cerebral palsy, congenital anomalies like Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, and there's even other categories. So It's those type of disabilities that most likely are going to be through the lifetime of an individual. That's going to require additional medical appointments or necessary additional care and support to help them. So those are the types of disabilities we cover. So if I broke my leg tomorrow, I wouldn't qualify for an able account.
Even ADHD?
Yeah, even severe ADHD would qualify for an able account. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have two children with autism. Both is diagnosed, but one is low functioning, definitely qualified, but the other one is high functioning.
Yes.
So this one is qualified? He can be?
So I usually tell individuals it would be the IRS to ultimately make that decision. Like I couldn't tell you if it's a high functioning individual with ASD.
Even if I have the paper.
But if you have the paperwork, the IRS is most likely going to say, okay, you're fine.
Okay.
Have you had an ADOS test? He's verified through ADOS.
I'm sorry?
Have you had an ADOS test to verify that he's on the spectrum, or?
Well, he was diagnosed when he was so little. They don't run all kind of tests.
4?
Yeah, he was diagnosed with 3 years old.
Okay.
And even now they diagnose it with another kind of psychology, something like that,
Okay.
but that was the
I'll
diagnosis.
say if you had an ADOS, you'd be good. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Okay, no, it's all good.
get off tangent, but
You
yeah.
have to check. We'll go here first, and then we'll hit the back, and then we'll move on. Yes.
What if you all already getting SSI benefits? Can you still be qualified?
Yeah, you would automatically qualify. So,
Alright, just curious.
so there you go. Good question.
What if you have a child with cystic fibrosis, she's not disabled, but
Diagnosed with CF?
Pardon?
Did you say CF?
Yeah,
Yeah, that is number 6.
so she would automatically.
Automatically qualify. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Even with the amazing whatever the name of that drug is, that's like
Tricop.
stopping. Yeah, I have a
Very
friend
expensive.
CF. She's like night and day. Like it is.
Yes.
You know, I get chills when I think about it because it's like I remember when we talked and she was younger and it was like my life expectancy is 35 and she just turned 37. So it's like look at you. Amazing drug. Yeah, but they would qualify. All right, ownership. The individual with the disability owns the fund. This is their account. However, somebody else can manage it on their behalf. A note about being the owner of that, right? So now they have an asset, an actual product that could potentially have $50, $100, up to $418,000. So that's an important thing, that mindset to have is I'm creating an asset for them. So it's important to think what happens when they're 18 and older. Are they going to take over the account? What safeguards do I need to have in place if I'm going to continue to manage it on their behalf? So if somebody is managing this on behalf of the person with the disability, they can do that as a parent if they're a minor. If they're an adult, they can still do it as a parent, but there's a hierarchy. So this is kind of a list of who can open and establish these accounts. It can be a legal guardian, power of attorney, parent, spouse, sibling, grandparent, even all the way down to a representative payee with Social Security Administration, either that be an individual or an agency that's serving in that capacity. And so we call this individual, if you call the customer service, or if you're starting to enroll, we call that person an authorized legal representative. The good thing is the final regulations from the Treasury that kind of give us some guidelines as a state of how we're supposed to run this program clearly stated that the relationship is familiar based, not age of majority, or whatever that legal term is. So if you're a parent and they turn 18, guess what? You're still a parent, even though they're 18. Now they could take over the account if they have the capacity to do so. So you might want to do a guardianship or advocate guardianship. So there's some safeguards you might have to consider when they become an adult. But good thing to know about there is you all can establish these accounts on behalf of your local. All right, any questions about eligibility, ownership, any of that kind of stuff? Good. And feel free, like I said, interrupt when you can. I love sidebars. Always good.
Well, does the person's assets qualify? Like if they already have a college fund and a savings account, like enough money to go to college if they were able to go to college, would they still qualify for an ABLE account? Is there any asset?
No. So it's able. Her question is basically if somebody has other assets or resources or other means, does that prohibit them from an ABLE account? No.
Okay.
No, right? Because we see, you know, personally, I see people that are very high functioning and people who are employed and making significant money, and they're using ABLE accounts for that tax-free growth, right? Like, yeah, I have a severe visual impairment, but I'm making 80 grand a year. Yeah, I'll put $10,000 in ABLE account, free money into the market, free tax growth. I can use it for whatever I need, basically. So, yeah, but no, you can.
'Cause I know some people who, they just haven't applied for Social Security because their kids have assets,
Yeah,
but
they need to dump that into an ABLE account to get them under assets. Yeah.
really, so they can be used that way.
Yeah, which is why we're talking about public benefits next. A good lead in. See, I paid her to say that. All right, so we're talking public benefits. So when I say public benefits, these are, the official term is federally means-tested programs. So these are programs that are for a variety of individuals based on either their, they have a disability, they're pregnant with no income, they're, elderly with no resources. So the first one of those products I'm going to talk about is Medicaid. So Medicaid is a state and federally funded program. Usually the state runs it. There's a match with feds. There's a Medicaid state program that pays for a very robust set of health services. Particularly the individuals that we're serving are on usually a waiver. And the big ones being the iBudget home and community-based waiver. And then we work with some families that are just on the Medicaid state plan. And so any Medicaid program, there's certain qualifications you need to enroll. One of those is how much cash do you have on hand. If it's typically over $2,000, guess what? You don't qualify. The great thing is funds in the ABLE account, or even taken out of the ABLE account, are generally disregarded as a resource towards that $2,000 limit. So it's a great way to be able to save more than $2,000 inside of an ABLE account. Now, when the program first launched, there's a lot of questions about, okay, well, if they're on Medicaid and they have an ABLE account and they pass away, the state's just going to come in and take all their ABLE funds. And so we wanted to clarify that here in the state, and so we passed legislation to say the state may not file a claim on an ABLE account. So what would happen if the beneficiary does pass away? Generally, all outstanding qualified disability expenses are paid first. So funeral, burial, if they were in an apartment or had outstanding bills, all those would be taken care of first, and then any leftover funds would go to their estate. Now their estate may have to be probated, there may be additional things, you would have to talk to an attorney and see how this new asset they have is part of their estate planning. So it's a different kind of mind shift and set. So that's Medicaid. The other big one is SSI, Supplemental Security Income. So that's a monthly check up to $890 something, right? That's check out for, I know somebody out there knows that amount. $890. Yeah, so $870, well, there you go. So that's a monthly check, helps pay some basic living expenses like food, shelter, clothing. And so there's some additional rules when it comes to using an ABLE account while a beneficiary is on SSI. The first one is how much money you can have in the ABLE account. Once you get up to $100,000, so if you get there, congratulations. You can put $16,000 per year, so it does happen. Anything above that $100,000 limit would count towards that $2,000 SSI resource limit. So it's a little complex. So really, I tell people, if you're on SSI, think about $100,000 as your cap, if you still want to keep SSI. A lot of people are on SSI because of Medicaid benefits, but an ABLE account, you can have your SSI suspended and keep your Medicaid benefits. But that's for 2.0 lesson tomorrow, so come back if you want to know more. So the other big rule for SSI participants and ABLE accounts is using your ABLE account to pay for housing related expenses, right? Because what's the purpose of SSI? Really, it's to help pay for rent. Well, if you use your ABLE account to pay for rent, you can actually not reduce your SSI benefits. But if you keep housing related expenses out of your ABLE account, so let's say, I have an example on the next slide. But basically, if you're not spending that resource in the same month, it could count as a resource at the beginning of the next month and cause your SSI benefits to be suspended. So we'll talk about that more on the next slide. And then finally, the important thing to know about ABLE accounts is ABLE accounts shelter resources. They do not shelter income. So if a beneficiary is on SSI and they're like, oh, okay, well they're gonna start working, I'll just have them direct deposit their funds into the ABLE account so, they can not count that income. But unfortunately, no. Even direct deposited funds into the ABLE account, direct earnings deposited into the ABLE account still counts as earnings for SSI and tax purposes. So remember, ABLE shelters resources, not earnings.
That was my question, maybe it's more for tomorrow, but I was wondering, lately, I saw, a question, was this earned income or earned from a job, to deposit? I was wondering if there's pros and cons of saying yes or no.
For putting it into an ABLE account?
Yeah, declaring whatever amount it is.
Yeah, that's a
as
2.0. If we have time, I'll get back to, we'll
Alright,
talk
great.
about able to work contributions a little bit here next. We'll touch on it a little bit.
Okay.
So here's the example. I'm talking about if you're using an ABLE account to pay for housing expenses while somebody's on SSI. So this is Amy has an ABLE account, takes $500 out in May, withholds that money in her bank account into June, and then pays her rent in June. Well, guess what? Social Security will count that as a resource at the beginning of June, which may cause her to lose or have her SSI benefits reduced. So how do you pay for housing expenses if you have an ABLE account and are receiving SSI? Have the ABLE account pay it directly. We have an online check request, so you can say just send the check to the utility department or for the mortgage. There is a systematic withdrawal form, so if you have a monthly recurring payment, you could do that online, or actually there's a form you have to print and send in. Hopefully we'll have it online eventually. Or if you do want to withdraw it, just make sure you pay it in the same month. Any questions on SSI and Medicaid? Yes,
Just
ma'am.
in your example, so if she took it out in May and paid it May 29th, then it wouldn't
It wouldn't,
count towards June?
yeah, it wouldn't count towards the June resource limit. I usually tell people it's just easier to go into your ABLE account and say, send to landlord, here's the address, and here's the amount. And that way it doesn't touch the bank account at all. And then that way you don't have to worry about it.
So does that work out okay when, the rent is due on the first of the month?
You just have to time it. I mean, because really our policy's 5 to 7 business days for it to arrive there.
Yeah.
So you just have to be proactive and say, okay, if I send it about the 20th of each month, it should get there and be processed by then.
So what you're saying is it's bypassing the bank altogether? It's just
Exactly.
directly
It
out
goes
of your
directly out
account.
of the ABLE account, directly to the landlord, so there's no worry about it counting as a resource for SSI purposes. So. Here's a little preview of tomorrow, but I'll touch on it here, working persons with disabilities language. Oh, yes ma'am, I'm sorry.
Does it matter if it's SSI versus SSDI?
So SSDI is an earned benefit, and usually they're not looking at how much resources you have. They're just looking at if you have substantial gainful activity, if you're employed and working, that's what they really care about. But they don't look at, they don't care how you're using your ABLE account for the most part. It's only people on SSI.
So just to go back to your previous thing about rent, can you use an ABLE account to pay for anything like that? Like
Yes.
one of our-
Oh man, we're about to get to expenses. My favorite slide about spending money. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Stay tuned. So I talked about how ABLE accounts really solve the asset resource limit. Earnings is a whole different ball of wax, and this is just a little bit of this legislation that passed that not a lot of people are talking about, called working persons with disabilities or working people with disabilities. And basically, for Medicaid waiver, so iBudget waiver, if you're not on that, then just don't listen. But put yours, plug yours. If you're on iBudget waiver and working, this legislation was passed to allow those individuals to work and actually earn up to $4,600 a month without losing their iBudget waiver. Now they might lose their SSI, which is fine if you're making $4,600 a month, And there's some other benefits, like you can save up to $13,000. You can have a retirement account. So I encourage individuals, search for Working People with Disabilities Florida if you're on iBudget waiver and you're deciding to go back to work, because that will really give you all the information you need. So that helps people that are trying to earn. All right. We talked about a lot of stuff. Everybody here with me? We're good? We're good? Do I need to throw a ball at anybody? We're good? Okay. Awesome. Now we're going to talk about how actually to enroll. Like fun stuff. Like, okay, I'm ready. You sold me, John. This half of the room, I think this half was on it. I don't know where this half was. How does an account work? How do I get started? Where do I go, right? So, ableunited.com is our website. Remember, this is not something you're going to go to a bank and enroll with. This is something that the state of Florida is bringing to you. And so, to save time and money and effort, we do it online. What you're going to need is an email address. You're going to need your information if you're opening this on behalf of a beneficiary, so your personal identification information, social, date of birth, address, their information as well. You're going to self-certify why they're eligible to open an account, so you're going to select one of those categories for the disability, select if they're on SSI, SSDI, or they're self-certifying, attest that you don't have any other ABLE accounts, and that the person has a disability that's going to last 12 months or longer. Once you get through all that and answer some questions about, do you have a bank account here, or what color was your 2022 blue Honda Civic, or what year model or something. So those 5 type of verification questions, as long as you pass those, you'll get a confirmation email. You click on that, and then you actually set up the investment side. How are you going to put money into the account? What investment or savings options you want? And really, if everything goes well, it takes 15 to 20 minutes. So to enroll online. Yes.
Sorry. Bank info. So do you guys create a bank account, or do you have to have a bank account already created?
You would need a bank account to contribute funds into the ABLE account. And that's primarily how people fund their ABLE account. They set up a systematic contribution from that connected bank account. So that's usually people put money in the account, and then when somebody wants to make a withdrawal, they usually put it back to that connected
Kind of like
bank
PayPal.
account. Kind of like a PayPal, kind of, sort of. I guess you could call it like a PayPal account. Because it is a financial tool, but it's not a bank account per se.
Thanks.
So if I'm setting it up for 2 different people,
Yep.
do I need 2 different email accounts?
No.
Okay.
After an account is established, you'll be able to add additional beneficiaries. There's a button at the top right that says Add Account. And you go on there, you're already logged in, so you don't have to do all that first part stuff. You just have to put the beneficiary's information and then select investment options. And if you want to add a different bank account, you can do that too. So the investment options, right? What's unique about ABLE accounts is they're both a savings tool or an investment tool. You really decide. And we try to make this as easy for most people. We have pre-designed portfolios to meet the needs of most investors. So these are risk tolerance portfolios, a conservative, moderate, and growth. They're made up of percentages of these products on the right. We have a money market, an FDIC product, a U.S. bond and U.S. stock that's managed by Vanguard, and an international stock. So these type of funds over here, they're broad index mutual fund type of products. So you're investing in a variety of already diversified products. Our performance is on our website. If you want to look at it, it doesn't look pretty right now. I'm not gonna lie. Our FDIC savings product is pretty set. It's based on the federal funds rate at the time, usually minus a few basis points. But you get to choose how you want your money. So if you put $25, it says, do I want to put $5 in savings? Do I want to put $10 in my conservative portfolio? You get to choose. And our website has a ton more information to give you all the nitty gritty of the investment products. Yes, sir.
Is the FDIC one the only one insured?
Yes, the FDIC savings fund is the only one that has the FDIC insurance. So, but if Vanguard goes out of business, we're all in trouble, buddy. But yes, that's the only one that's insured. All right. Putting money into the account. Generally, contributions to an ABLE account are considered a gift, so they don't count as income towards the individual unless, like I said, they put their own money in the account, like their earnings. So that's a great thing by anybody. It could be a family member, it could be their money, it could be a business, an organization, a religious institution. Anybody can put contributions into an ABLE account on behalf. We even have this cool, I'll skip ahead of the thing here. We even have a cool little gifting page that people, when they enroll, can set up and share online to have family and friends instead of sending me money, which could count as income if they're on benefits. Instead, they can contribute online to their ABLE account and not count as income towards them. It is limited on how much you could put in per calendar year. That's $16,000. That goes up every few years. It's based on the gift tax. And if the individual is working and not saving for retirement, they can put funds into their ABLE account above that $16,000 annual limit. There's some additional nuances to that, and we'll talk more about it next time because I want to leave plenty of time for questions. And once again, if somebody might have a 529 college savings plan, maybe family members out there might be going to college, or you might have a sibling or a family member that has leftover funds in a college savings plan, they can actually roll that over to an ABLE account. So that's a pretty neat thing to do. All right. Spending money. Any spenders here? Spenders, don't be shy. All right, well, there's 4 of you. 4, really? All right, so thank God my wife is the saver, right? Because I am the spender in the family. And so, all right, you're putting money aside. It comes to the time I want to start taking money out of the ABLE account. How does that work? Do I have to get pre-approved? Do I have to wait like 3 months? No to all of this. After an account is set up and in good order, which usually takes about 30 days, money can start being withdrawn in usually 2 to 5 business days. And so how do you get money out of the account? And then we'll talk about what you can use the money for. So getting money out of the account, you can put it back to that connected bank account, or you can have multiple. We see a lot of people might have 2 bank accounts on there, like the parents who is funding it, and then when they make a withdrawal, they put it to their kid's bank account. So you can do that. You can request a check online to be sent to you or a third party. So when we're talking about paying rent, go online, send a check that way. But we also have an optional ABLE Visa prepaid card. And we see a lot of like transitional families and families that are wanting to give their child a little more independence. They can get a preloaded Visa credit card, so they have to actually load funds onto it so they're not tied to the whole ABLE account, right? Who wants to, like, oh, I've been saving $10,000, and then you give them a card, and before it's, in their pocket, it's gone. So it's preloaded, so you have to load it how much you want to have them, but then it gives them that flexibility to use that Visa debit card wherever Visa is accepted. Some important things to consider when you do make a withdrawal, because remember, these accounts can grow tax-free. When you do make a withdrawal, you're going to issue some tax forms, one being a 1099-QA. It's basically, we have to tell the IRS, hey, this person has an ABLE account. They took out, for example, let's say $1,000 this calendar year. Of that $1,000, maybe 100 of it was earnings, okay? As long as you use the funds right, there's no reporting. If you didn't have any qualified disability expenses for the year, then you would have to pay taxes on the earnings portion, so that $100 of the earnings on the income of the child or whoever the account is for, plus a 10% penalty. But usually that doesn't come in because, as you see on this next slide, everything's a qualified disability expense. Also, the important things to know is that when you withdraw, you get to choose how you want that money to come out. As I said, you can make this a savings, an investment account, or both. So some families are like, well, I don't want to touch my investment. Well, you can withdraw just from the savings portion of the account. And always keep that documentation for the IRS and Social Security. Really, Social Security is only going to look at people who are on SSI, and they're really looking if you're retaining funds out of your ABLE account, what you're retaining those funds for, because they want to make sure it's not housing. Because you can retain those funds and say, maybe you have an upcoming medical expense that your insurance isn't going to come, or you're going to have to put down, $1,500 on a car. Well, you can keep that in your bank account, 3-4 months ahead of time, because especially if it's a market and it's volatile. But yeah, but keep all that documentation. We're not going to ask for it. The IRS, if they audit could, and definitely people on SSI, they're going to ask if it's retained. All right. So what can you use the funds for, right? This is what I love. So when the Treasury, when this was passed, people were like, okay, what can we start using these funds for? How do we define it? And so they came out with 13 very broad categories. It can be things related to an individual's health, so maybe a premium, maybe a copay, maybe some kind of medical procedure, education, anything for education, higher education, back to school shopping, right? Are all ready for that? Tax-free holidays in August, pay attention. Any educational expenses, housing, rent, utilities, the hotel to stay here at the family cafe. All those would be qualified. Transportation, ride-sharing services. What's interesting is that prepaid card, I get a report to get a broad view of how people are actually using their card. Taco Bell, McDonald's, Amazon, Uber. Like, those are the top 4, like, every time. And so, which is great. But yeah, ride-sharing services for transportation, or putting a down payment on a car, or buying a car outright with their able account. All those are approved. Legal fees, so maybe setting up a special needs trust. Maybe there's other legal fees they need, qualifying. Financial management. I'm not a financial advisor, you can't hire me, I'm sorry. But maybe you do. Maybe you're saying, okay, this person's gonna have significant assets in a special needs trust and they need a financial manager for that. That would be appropriate. Employment training and support, whatever that requires. Assistive technology, oversight and monitoring, even funeral and burial. And I like this last one. Other expenses approved by the Treasury regulations. And everybody asks me, what does that even mean? I don't know. The Treasury doesn't know. Tattoo. So that's a good one. All right. So I'll tell you what the Treasury says, and we'll go back to tattoos, because I have some questions. It's a metaphor. All right, so the underlying Treasury. So Treasury is like, we'll give you one example. Let's say you have somebody, maybe they're autistic, they need help navigating the community. A cell phone and a cell phone plan, qualified disability expense. That's the only example they get. And so the states had times to respond while the final regulations were being finalized. So, and a lot of the questions were all about qualified disability expenses. So what about this? What about this? What about food? What about paying for somebody who's a personal care expense, and we're going on a cruise, and can I pay for theirs? And all kinds of questions. And the Treasury is like, well, we're not going to give you any more guidance, but we'll add that it's ultimately down to this basic line. Is it for the person with the disability, the beneficiary of the account? Is it for them, and is it going to help improve or maintain their health, independence, or quality of life? If it meets that, then it is a qualified disability expense. To my knowledge, I don't know of anybody that's been audited by the IRS and there's been any issues in the whole entire country. I know Social Security has some additional rules. They very much say gambling is a no-no, so don't go to the Hard Rock with your ABLE account. Giving the funds away, definitely a no-no, right? Mom and dad, you're like, hey, we're going on this cruise, you're paying for it all. Probably not going to be allowed. Maybe for one as a personal care team, maybe. And then also, probably tobacco is not going to be. I usually say alcohol, even though I think that could be on the fence, right? You're talking about independence, they're 21. I know, vacation. I tell people all the time, yes, use your able account, go on vacation. Tattoos, that's an interesting, right? Would the IRS see a tattoo as being something that's going to help improve or maintain their health, independence, or quality of life? I can see it could improve maybe their independence, but I have a feeling IRS is calling say that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an IRS, so I can't trust you. You would have to let me know how that goes. Okay, that's all I can say. Yeah. Because I had some parents who's like, well, if I purchase alcohol for me, that's for it could be for their health. But yes, ma'am.
So basically, what's the highlight difference between the a special needs trust versus the expenses of an ABLE?
You really want to go into 2.0, don't you? You're like, I'm here. I'll get to it. I have an FAQ.
But doesn't the special needs trust say you can't pay for housing and
So that we'll get into it. We're gonna get into it. And that is correct. Yes. Yeah. We'll if we have time, because that's Varied 2.0. I don't want to steal my thunder tomorrow. Then I'm not gonna have nothing.
What
So-
time's that class?
Tomorrow is
3.
3 to 4 in this same room. I'm gonna stand on that side though, so it's gonna I'll have a white shirt on. Don't want to throw you off, okay? But they even said basic living expenses, so groceries, clothes shopping. You know, our 2 questions are what happens to the funds when the beneficiary dies, and then what can I use the funds for? Those are our number 1 and 2 questions. And I tell people, I was like, just, you know, you can justify, like home modifications. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna hold you. Hi, over here.
That's okay, we're all watching.
Yeah, oh, she doesn't want to pay attention to me. All right, so, all right, I'm sorry, I love babies. All right, here we go. So what does this cost, right? Everybody's like, okay, John, this sounds too good to be true. It's gonna cost $50 a month for the rest of my life. The great thing about being, one of the probably only great things about being a part of a state program is the state really wants to make sure that this is a successful program and make sure that there's funding to run that. So with that being said, is we want to make this as ease of burden for you to get into it with no cost. So there's no monthly maintenance fees, there's no enrollment fee. Really our fees are tied to our investment products, with FDIC being no fees at all, to some of our investment advisor fees, which is $29 for every $10,000 you have in the account annualized. But that's, you know, usually taking it out of the thing. Man, he's already clapping. I like this guy. You can come tomorrow at 3, okay? If you do want that amazing prepaid card, it is $250 a month, unfortunately. That's just our most expensive piece, and we split the cost. It costs the state $5, and we make you pay $250, and we'll cover the other $250.
Is there a limit to how much you can load on it? I mean,
Yeah, there's some limits, like you can only put like $5,000 or $10,000 on a day, up to $15,000 a month.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that's some limits. Yeah,
However long, that's okay.
yeah, that's fine. But it does, like I said, it does take 2 to 5 business days, depending on if it's a holiday. Like if you did it today, right now, after 4, you're not going to get money on that card till Wednesday of next week.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't have the card for a while, it's
Yeah.
itself, anyways, gotta get for it.
Yeah, exactly. So we, like I said, best value for is really, we're trying to make this as free, as affordable as possible. So definitely get enrolled. And look, I'm here with Alexandra in the back, who is our social media specialist. So if you want to go on our Facebook page, go talk to her. She'll interview you. But she said, you know what? I'm going to give everybody who enrolls $50 just for enrollment. So thank you, Alexandra.
You're welcome.
But no, that is a promo we're running. Everybody who just tries us out, see this for you, will contribute $50 to your account.
I just,
How long does that last?
You missed it. Well, you're gonna get a backpack, okay?
okay.
All right, that's something. We'll get there.
Feel so much
All right,
better.
frequently asked questions. This is my. We'll do a bigger, deeper dive on special needs trusts and able accounts and how they work together. Able account, once again, able account is not a special needs trust. It's just an additional financial tool in your tool belt, right? Like we often see people using special needs trusts to fund able accounts, then have their able accounts pay their housing, and then usually that housing's to a parent probably, and then the parent puts that money back into their able account, and then the able account pays housing, and then the parent takes that money and puts it back in their able account, so they keep their full SSI check. That's how that works. But yeah,
And that's okay.
and that's totally fine. Attorneys love it. I love that attorneys love it. It's all good. But yeah, special needs trusts can be used to fund an able account. It's primarily how they work together, because able accounts can be used to pay for housing and food and not worry about those issues. What happens if you move out of the state of Florida? Can you take the Able United account with you? And just for you all, yes. And anybody else. But primarily for you all. No, you can keep it. It's managed online. You just have to be a Florida resident at the time you apply. But I do encourage people, if they move out of state. I've actually met the person that launched the Alaska Able program today. I thought that was kind of exciting. I was like, cool. And so I got her information, so we'll be best friends. And then I met somebody from Washington, D.C. and from Georgia. I'm like, you can't open one in Florida, but check out what that state's program is, because some states who have state income tax might let you write out some of your state income tax for contributions to an able account in their program. So check out what that state offers, but once again, you can keep the Florida program if you want to. We talked a little bit about taxes, right? If you take a withdrawal, you're gonna get a form. If you don't, if you just establish an account, you're gonna get at least a 5498 QA. That's us telling the IRS and sending you, hey, we told the IRS you have an ABLE account, and this is why you're eligible, and this is the account balance. And that 1099 comes into play if you take a withdrawal. Because they require you to file taxes, it's just for your benefit to hold on to and keep it with those receipts of how much you withdraw from the year in case the IRS was to audit you.
So pay taxes only comes, that only happens if you withdraw something.
Yeah.
And so,
Paying taxes only comes into place if you withdraw money from your ABLE account and you have no qualified disability expenses. So you decide to go to Hard Rock, or you gave all the money away. Then you would be subject to taxes on the earnings portion of that withdrawal, plus a 10% penalty.
yeah, so you don't have to pay every year as it earns interest.
No, you don't pay any taxes. It's tax-free, as long as you're using the account. All right, so here's my contact information. Is this stuff all right? No, this is not. This is not right. I'm gonna delete this. So our TTY is, just call 711 if you need a TTY line, because ours is no longer, because we found out the TTY line that Florida has is much better than what we had. Anyway, so alieni.com, we have Spanish resources available as well. alieni.com/Espanol. We have live chat is back up and functioning, so if you want to just have a quick little one-off session, you can do that. Go on our website. Maybe you love me so much, you're like, I need more John Finch. You can actually book up a 15-minute Calendly request with me. I'll do virtual with you for 15 minutes to talk about ABLE accounts. That's under the Contact Us page, so feel free to do that. Check our events, see where we're at, like at Family Cafe. And we have customer service. So I always encourage people, call customer service. They're trained well. I monitor their phone calls on a quarterly basis, and they're doing a pretty good job. They're available 9 to 6 Eastern time, and that's our phone number, 1-888-524-ABLE or 2253. And that is it. That is all. That is the entire presentation. You all made it. You made it to the first day. Give yourself a round of applause. Good job, everybody. Yes, sir.
Give him the ball.
Oh, you want the ball? Hey, there you go, Matthew. Good for you. All right, make sure everybody gets a backpack. But let's add any questions. Any questions? I'm here. We have 12 minutes for questions. Yes.
Not stealing thunder, but unfortunately, CMC classes at the same time, so for tomorrow.
Okay.
Just a brief highlight of the difference between the two. Just a brief, like.
A brief highlight between a special needs trust and an ABLE account. Well, let's take a vote. How many want to hear a brief special needs trust versus an ABLE account? There's only 5. You don't have people on your side. You gotta do a better job selling it. Who wants to hear about ABLE account, special needs trust difference? Okay. All right, brief. All right. So, here you go. All right, special needs trust, right? A special needs trust is part of your estate planning, right? Typically, right? There's 2 different types of special needs trust, right? Third party, first party. Third party is somebody else's money. It's your life insurance policies, it's your cars, your house. Grandparents are going to leave an inheritance. They want to do in a third party special needs trust. First party special needs trust is their money. They won the lottery. They got a settlement. Something happened. Who else wants it back? I don't know. No. I'll put this in the back. Alexander, come up here. Pass these out for me. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, it's still on there. Take people out. All right. So, ABLE accounts is a financial tool. It's not really an estate planning tool, right? You're not going to be leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars to an ABLE account because it can only accept $16,000 per year. And I compare an ABLE account kind of like an immediate Roth IRA savings investment account. Special needs trust, estate planning, large sums of money. ABLE account $16,000 per calendar year. Special needs trust, you need an attorney. All right, it can be costly. There's fees tied to it. There's a trustee involved. It's a lot more work. ABLE account, you can enroll in 15 minutes. The beneficiary can manage their own account if they're capable. Somebody else can manage their account if they're capable. Other differences, Special needs trust, yeah, it can have a lot of money. There are some restrictions on how you use the fund, right? They don't like to pay for housing. Guess what? They able account can pay for housing, all right? Able accounts can be receiving funds from a special needs trust,
But only 16,000.
but only 16,000 per calendar year. So we see a lot of people who have a special needs trust, say either right at the beginning of the year or periodically throughout the year, put up to 16,000 in it. That beneficiary can then use that money throughout the year or just save it. So it's a great way to do it. So that's high level, the difference between a special needs trust and an able account. But they're not really, I mean, they're two different types of products completely.
Is it less accountability per se?
Yeah, right, because with an able account, you're gonna get quarterly statements. It's, you know, the only time you're really reporting stuff is if Social Security has a question, if you're on SSI. You know, you're not filing taxes on an able account for the most part. So yeah, so from that standpoint, yes, less complex in filing.
Court records, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, we don't, you know, sometimes you might, if you're doing guardianship, they might request you to supply information about your able account. Oh, we changed it. It's too late. Oh, look, she has the rest, so you have to fight her. All right, so does that answer? I mean, hopefully that gives you a little bit of, you know, clarity. Like I often see, you know, most attorneys I talk to recommend having both, right? Set up the able account now. Okay. You're all coming along. Any other additional questions about able accounts? Yes, ma'am.
Has the maximum gone up since it went from 15 to 16?
Yes, the maximum amount you can put into an able account is based on the gift tax limit. That goes up every 3 years or so. When we first launched in 2016, it was 14, then it went to 15, now we're at 16.
What is gift tax? But I'm sorry, I meant the max you can have.
Oh, so the max you can have, the max the account can grow up to is 418,000. So that means if you put 16,000 in a year for the next 24 years and had about a 5% return, you'll get there. So we'll talk in 18 years and see if I can get that adjustment up. But if you do max out, if you hit the 418, you can no longer contribute to it, but it can continue to grow tax-free.
I thought it was only 100, did it?
$100,000 is for people on SSI. If you're on SSI and you have 100,000 in your able account, once you get past that, it's going to count towards that $2,000 limit. All right. Anybody else?
No.
Well, we have 6 booths. There's plenty of experts down there. They can answer all of your questions. We have a lot of free stuff to give away, so maybe you didn't get a backpack and you want a cup or an umbrella or a squishy or what else we're giving away? I don't even know. Tons of stuff. Glasses, sunglasses, beach balls. $50 if you open an account.
How long is the $50 gonna go on?
It's good until June 30th. So get it in now. And we're also doing a giveaway. Somebody at Family Cafe is going to win $529 contribution to their able account. I think we only have maybe 50 people, 60 people registered. So go sign up. Good chances. It's better than winning the lotto. Anything else? Anything else? Yes. You want the ball? You can have that ball. I blew on it though, so don't blow on it. Yeah, disinfect it first. I mean, I don't have it.
I have a Sharpie.
Thank you all so much. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Family Cafe.